Cornel West appeared on CNN for an interview with their new star reporter, Kaitlan Collins, who seemed pretty obsessed with the one question that we figured would be on CNN's mind throughout this whole campaign. Why are you acting as a spoiler, and when are you going to drop out?
Okay, and watch her weird faces. Like she's really like an animatronic from Disney that got dropped into an anchor chair.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
Reporting from CNN, the slow pace of President Biden's re-election campaign has caused some concern among some top Democrats and party donors. They were already a bit nervous because of the potential threat of a third-party candidate taking votes from Biden and potentially handing the election, they believe, to Donald Trump and therefore the keys to the White House for a second time. Joining me tonight is one of those third-party candidates, Dr. Cornel West.
Joining me tonight, the man who's going to destroy the world, Cornel West, running for the Green Party candidate. Here he is.
Good evening, Dr. West.
Or as we call him around here, the Joker.
On The Source. I mean, what do you believe is your path to success?
Well, first, I just want to congratulate you on your show this week, and it's a blessing to be on your show. You're straight out of Plattsville, Alabama, the home of Wilson Pickett. So we got two grand ones out of Platt.
Maybe that's our problem, Russell. Maybe we're not from Plattsville, Alabama. Maybe he'd come on our show if we were from the right town in Alabama. Maybe.
Well, how does he know? Let's just tell him we are.
We could just tell him that, yeah. Right. Maybe I should put that in our follow-up email. Exactly.
I don't talk so much about success in the narrow sense. I'm just trying to bear witness, Sister Kaitlan. I'm trying to bear witness to the love and encourage and integrity that Irene and Clifton and Shiloh Baptist Church Black Panther Party put into me when I was shaped.
Look at her face.
She does not even know what to do with this. This is what I'm saying. Like her face just gets very rubbery right around this point.
For those who have been watching us for a while, you will remember this phrase that I sort of coined a while back, which is the liberal cat stare. Whereas when you start talking conceptual stuff, when you start talking about real issues that affect real people and you start drawing historical parallels, right? What do?
Monty Python.
They get this look in their eye. Like they're looking at you, but you could tell they're not absorbing any of what you're saying. They're just waiting for their turn to speak again so that they can raise whatever bullshit vapid point they have ready to go. And that's exactly how this interview plays out.
Be able to tell the truth about poor and working people because neither party wants to tell the truth about poor and working people. You keep track of these strikes, the Hollywood workers. Keep track of the strikes of the Teamsters against UPS. Keep track of the strikes in Amazon and see where both Democrats and Republicans come down. Keep track of the cluster bombs abroad. Keep track of the plight of Palestinians. Both Democrats and Republicans on one side, and then there's a few of us on the other doing what? Keeping alive the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, Dorothy Day, and a host of others. So I'm just trying to speak the truth and pursue justice. I wish they would spend as much time focusing on the plight of poor and working people as they do focusing on the spoiler. I don't even like that category since so many of folk who vote third
She's
party
really
don't vote
not
at
sure
all.
what kinds of facial expressions to respond with.
No, exactly.
Like I'm watching her through this whole interview because her face is just fascinating.
Exactly.
Sister Jill said they would not vote at all if they didn't vote for her. So I think the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, this corporate duopoly, they stand in the way of focusing on poor and working people both here and abroad, and that's all I'm doing in this campaign.
Question.
Part of a moment in a movement. For
commercial break.
I'm glad you brought up Jill Stein because you know the counter argument here. Jill Stein's actually helping you with this run in 7 years.
Okay, so look at all that. Look at all that was said there. Look at the talk about Amazon strikes, Teamster strikes, actor strikes, Martin Luther King, right? Israel, Palestine, workers here and abroad. And he addressed her spoiler point, the spoiler question. Nobody wants to focus on those issues. They want to call third-party candidates spoilers. The reason they call them spoilers is precisely because they raise those issues that corporate media never wants to talk about. That's why they call them spoilers in the first place. And what does she come back with? Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jill Stein, because speaking of Jill Stein, she's a spoiler, right?
He went on this whole journey, MLK, the Black Panthers, And that's all she really got out of it. Because look, she's got those questions prepared. And it really wouldn't matter what he said. He could say, below the waist, I'm naked. You can't see it right now. And she'd say, so about Jill Stein.
Right, exactly, yeah.
He could say anything.
Exactly.
That would have been the next question.
Here's the next question.
Years ago, when she was the Green Party candidate, Hillary Clinton's world blamed her in part for that loss. And Democrats are worried you're going to play that role this time around. So what do you say to people, to Democrats who are worried you'll tip the election for Donald Trump?
Well, I just say that it's simply not true. I mean, I have great respect. I have great respect for my dear brother Ralph Nader. I have great respect for Sister Jill Stein. I have great respect for my dear brother Jammu Baraka. Meaning what? Meaning that the Democratic Party is so unsocratic as well as undemocratic. I'm still upset because they didn't treat my dear brother Bernie right twice. But they're unsocratic. Examine yourself. Examine why it is you did not speak to the issues of poor and working people, and therefore you lost. If you'd rather lose than really change and examine yourself, then you're going to have third parties popping up all over the place because people are suffering out here. You got mass incarceration. You got ghettos and hoods and barrios and reservations. You got 60% of our fellow citizens
before this interview.
barely making
Should have hit
every
Starbucks.
month. And what's the discourse? We want to win the next election, and we're concerned about the spoiler. Hey, I thought you were concerned about public life.
No.
That you're concerned about the quality of the life of citizens. And I speak as a Christian, which is the least of these, the 25th chapter of Matthew, the orphans, the widow, the fatherless, the motherless, the marginalized, the subjugated.
What the fuck's he on about now?
That's my legacy. That's the legacy.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, this is the look. And, I mean, I would say it's amazing. It's not amazing. It's exactly par for the course. But this is why, if he were running as a Democrat and he went in there and he was talking like this, I would say this is totally useless. Because when you're running as a Democrat, you need this audience to vote for you. And so whatever her reaction is, that is the reaction of the audience whose support you need to succeed in a Democratic primary. I don't really see what the point of going on here and talking like this is, because the audience is so unreachable. The audience is exactly Kaitlan Collins. She is reacting. She is a mirror for the audience right now. Everybody watching is reacting the exact same way, which is they're just concerned about what, as he said, winning the next election. And the really interesting thing about this is that all this talk about Jill Stein, because we hear about Jill Stein 2016 over and over and over again on Twitter, even on corporate media, right? When it comes to lib spaces, you would not think, just from watching this, that we have a Democratic president now. They act as if 2016 was the last election to take place. Like, they ignore the fact that now we have a Democrat in office, right? Why? Because, as this Democrat promised, nothing has fundamentally changed, right? So it feels like you're still living under Trump, right? Because of the SCOTUS things that have come down, and just the overall climate has not improved. The overall mood of the country has probably gotten worse. People's lives have gotten harder, right? And so the whole premise is, well, if you're a spoiler and you cost the Democrats the election, that's going to drive the country to hell. This analysis completely ignores that a Democrat won the previous election. You're talking about 2 elections ago. The Democrat won the last election, and with it came the House and the Senate. And what happened? Nothing. Shit got even worse. And so now you're going to put this spoiler thing on him as if what? As if we have a Republican administration now and we have to save the country from 4 more years of it? No. The Democrats won the last time. And there's no mention of that whatsoever.
We need to give him a second term so he can finish the job.
Exactly.
He needs to finish the job he did on the country already. No, it's what has changed. What is palpable to me is there are so few people left who don't recognize that this is just a pointless conversation. Our politics are just a pointless conversation as defined by these people, right? Oh, we got to elect these people. We got to elect these people. It's fewer people than ever before who don't see that it's just nonsense, that it's just a sporting event for these people, that the people who are still invested in it are the people who, as you have said, they don't have the kind of problems that politics can solve. Right? They're having a midlife crisis. Politics can't solve that for you. Right? You can't get it up anymore. You got to go get the Viagra. You know, politics can't solve that for you. But
I don't even think Medicare for all could solve that, because I think you got to pay out of pocket for that shit.
You got to pay out of pocket, exactly. They don't care if you get in action. They don't care if you get in it, right? So like these kinds of framings, these kinds of conversations. Look, it used to be pretty much everybody bought into this shit. Pretty much everybody. Like if you go back to like the 90s, like this kind of thing. I mean, most people who paid attention to politics at all bought it. Very few people did not. At this point, very few people do. Like this is a conversation and a logic that is just had amongst this very, very tiny slice of the electorate. And that's why they've become so focused on censorship, because they know it. They know it. When everybody bought into this shit, they didn't talk about stopping people from saying things.
Right? Of course. Right.
Like, what did they? No, it didn't matter. You had a few malcontents, right? A few Ralph Nader voters. What did it matter to them? Right after Trump got elected, I knew somebody I had lunch with who's a real shitlib, who said to me very conspiratorially, I'll never forget this. I sit there and I watch CNN all day.
Yeah.
Like he was getting back at Trump that way.
Right.
That's the mind. That's how.
Because that was when Trump was fucking with Jim Acosta and really targeting CNN. With his rhetoric.
I watch it all day.
That shows him. I leave it on when I leave the house so they get the ratings. I put it on when I sleep.
I know it's bad for the environment, but it's good for CNN. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go.
That I attempt to enact in my own fallible way as a cracked vessel.
Yeah, so you're saying essentially you think that Democrats, well, not just Democrats, but that they have the wrong message. If you're looking at
no, it's not that they have the wrong message. It's that they actively undermine poor and working people in very similar ways to the Republican Party. It's not just that they have a bad message. This is the old line. Well, the Democrats have to message better. No, they have to be better, and because they're not going to be better, they have to be defeated. They have to be crushed.
You heard so much of that shit after 2016.
Right.
These Democrats with their messaging.
Right.
It's the old advertising story. The guy owns the dog food company. He goes to the advertising guy. He says, no matter what we do, we can't get up our sales. He says, maybe the dogs don't like the food. This never occurs to them that the actual product is terrible. That's why nobody wants it.
Right. Exactly. So here's our next question.
Election, it comes down to the wire. The Democrats, well, not just Democrats, but that they have the wrong message. If you're looking at this at the election, it comes down to the wire. You're polling at say 2 or 3% in key battleground states. What do? Do you ultimately back President Biden like you did in 2020, or what would you do in that scenario, do you think?
Well, I mean, part of the challenge, my dear sister, is that, you got Trump. He's certainly a gangster, neo-fascist. He's, in many ways, promoting, if not promoting, that's too strong a word. But one effect of his work is to move toward a second civil war. With Biden, he's better in some ways on domestic issues, but he's leading us toward a third world war. So if we choose between the second civil war and the third world war, where are we? We're between a rock and a hard place, and that's where so many of us find ourselves.
All right. See, now look, I love Cornel West. I'm going to vote for Cornel West. I don't love that answer. And I'll tell you why I don't love that answer. Because we're 1,000 times closer to World War III under Biden than we ever were to a second civil war under Trump, right? Saying we were close to a second civil war under Trump, that is hyperbole. I mean, that is metaphorical speak. I understand what you're going for there. I understand you're trying to make both parties out of bounds, as is your job as a third-party candidate. That's throwing a little red meat to the dumbass CNN audience who are not going to vote for you anyway, which is why I don't really understand the efficacy of doing that interview as opposed to, say, our show here wouldn't get as many eyeballs, although not much fewer. CNN's ratings are pretty dog shit.
They're pretty bad. They're pretty bad.
I don't love that answer because that answer does not take seriously the urgency of the threats that we're under right now of World War III. So I just didn't love that answer. I don't think that's helpful.
Well, I also don't buy that it's only one side that's inciting a culture war.
Right.
Both sides are inciting a culture war because they have nothing to offer economically. When you have no practical program to help people, you need to throw them bread and circuses in the form of culture wars.
Right. Indeed. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I do not love that answer there. And then they go on to talk about NATO and Ukraine, which, we've heard Cornel talk about before, so we don't have to play the rest of that. But just amazing how the first three questions were spoiler again, when are you going to drop out? Right.
Well, because that's all their audience
and no matter
cares
what was
about.
said, it did not change her line of what she's going to ask him. Right. No matter what, it's okay, strikes, poor people, Palestine, Martin Luther King, war. Okay, let's wrap it up. Okay, let's go. Are you going to drop out and support Biden or not? Right. I mean, just the lack of curiosity amongst these people. This is where the Democratic electorate gets this shit from. This is why they are so unreachable. This is why Democratic primaries are such pointless endeavors. Because when you look at the media, their media only cares about those questions. So, of course, the people themselves only care about those questions. And there is simply no way in hell to get through to them on any other level. And it is impossible.
Well, and you know what? The success of people like Joe Rogan and the success of enterprises like that in general really blew up the premise of doing news this way, that, people don't have the attention span. They don't really want a deep dive. They don't want to know more than that. I mean, honestly, I would have bought into that myself until people started doing 3-hour podcasts and having much bigger audiences than there are for this. So you can't say really people are stupid, people don't want it, people can't follow it. It's that you have conditioned a certain segment of the electorate to not expect any better.
Please clap.